Bench Opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
Right,
Let's go.
Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Bench Opinions. This is our World Test Championship final special episode.
No football to talk about.
No football to talk about. There's a rugby episode that came out yesterday. There's a What a Week episode that's coming out tomorrow or on Friday. But today it's all about the cricket. Australia's playing South Africa at Lord's. Final of the World Test Championship. No, it's just the final of the World Test Championship.
Just the final.
No two finals.
The final of the finals.
Dom,
Checking
can
the
you
weather.
explain to the people who don't understand how the World Test Championship works what
Yes.
we're looking at here?
Like me.
So the winner of the World Test Championship final, which means they're the World Test Championship champions, they win a
Describe this word, not using this word.
they win a saber, and the saber used to be something which is the trophy. It was something that used to be won or maintained by the team that was ranked number one in the world for tests. This would be sort of given to the team once a year. But at some point, people thought, well, with T20 becoming so hyperly competitive and sort of slowly starting to transform the game, ODI is kind of losing a little bit of relevance outside of the World Cups. People thought, well, to incentivize test cricket, let's create some sort of championship, something that's a little bit more bite-sized that you can kind of hold in your hand like a saber and maybe go watch at Lord's.
Yeah.
And so they came up with a 2-year ranking system. The top two teams at the end of the 2-year cycle qualify for this final, and this is played at the home of cricket, i.e. a neutral venue. Unless England are in it, then good for them, but they're not because they're shit. And this year, South Africa and Australia have qualified for it.
Yeah.
So it kicks off on Wednesday, 5-day game at Lord's.
Is the ranking system as dubious as it is for rugby?
No, it's a little more cut and dry. What is dubious, though, is how South Africa qualified and the control of the three major unions. So England, Australia, and India control global cricket. And what's kind of happened, because they've sort of created a monopoly, is they tend to play each other all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Which actually makes their own life harder because they're playing better teams.
Yeah.
And South Africa qualified under a cloud of, which I think is unfounded sort of criticism. South Africa qualified by beating just minnows. You know, we played.
Well, I mean, what used to be great cricket nations.
Yeah,
but
and we can only beat what's in front of us because of the control of the other three unions around cricket. We don't have the opportunity to play Australia, India, and England as much as we wanted to. So we beat teams like Pakistan, great side for intents and purposes. Sri Lanka, shadow of what they used to be, but still a decent nation. We had a good test series win against Bangladesh.
Yeah.
We beat Zimbabwe very convincingly in a test series. So we qualified maybe on the path less traveled, but we're there.
Yeah.
And
It's tough that when England, I don't know when we last played England in a test series. It seems like
a long time ago.
a really long time ago. We do play India in India sometimes, but Australia's also, since Sandpaper Gate, we haven't played them definitely not in a 5-match series, which is the ones you want. You really want you want a 5-match series against one of the big teams. They don't invite us, or they don't invite any of the other teams that Dom's just mentioned, just because the revenues for them aren't as big as if they play England or India. We're in the final now. You two will be going along with some other friends of ours. What are our thoughts going in terms of South Africa's chances?
Zanya, my girlfriend, who knows absolutely fuck all about cricket today, asked me this same question, and I said Australia are favourites. I think I would say their team's really good, but it's difficult to answer this question because of what we've just unpacked. Is like how South Africa beaten everyone in front of them.
Australia lost to the West Indies.
Exactly.
Like there's potential for slip ups
In Test cricket or in
Test cricket?
In test
Yeah.
cricket?
So I think the chances are pretty good. I would say it's about 60-40. So I think it's, I count myself lucky. I think there'll have to be some good individual performances, and we are a side that tends to be dominated by like 3-4 really good individuals.
Yeah.
Particularly our bowling attack's very good. I think we'll come to the selection now. Selection is going to be a big factor that I'm very worried about for various factors, and I'll tell you why. But if you look at us on paper, you've got people like Rabada, who is the best test bowler in the world. He's top of the ranking. So, and he's not on a lot of cocaine, so he's going to be up for it. You know, hopefully was, because the worst thing can happen.
The Australian media is very upset.
That's true. I mean, if you could sniff sandpaper, they would do it too. So, so that's kind of that's where I'm at the moment. So I think we'll need really good individual performances, but I believe we have the individuals in the side to make it happen. I think Australia's less of a romantic kind of team. Australia has this ability to find dudes at the age of 33 who've been playing club cricket in fucking
they've got Sam Constas as their up and coming youngster.
That's true. He's a loudmouth as well. That's going to be blockbuster if he can. And Rabada's definitely someone that doesn't take shit.
So I think we'll get into the dynamics of where the battles are won and lost. Let's go into. Well, before that, let's start with a decision by South Africa to employ Stuart Broad on a one-day contract. The England cricketer Stuart Broad, to give advice and sort of lecture the South African bowlers on what to expect at Lords. Good stroke by the South African Cricket Association.
I mean, they've done it in rugby as well, where they've sort of gotten Jaco Paper in as a referee to sort of understand the conditions more. So I think it is a good idea. It's probably out of the box thinking, which you don't.
I think it surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
Get as much information as you can and see if it helps.
I think even more impressive in the sense that they've gotten someone that relatively recently retired. So it's a guy that, you're not getting fucking some guy that's been down the pub drinking for 30 years who's going to come and tell you about Lords. There's a guy that's, he's, for all intents and purposes, a couple of years ago, he was one of the best test bowlers in the world. Yeah. And Lords is a very unique ground in that there's a hill at Lords that you either bowl up or down, and that really influences the way the ball moves, from which side you want which bowlers bowling, and I think also with Broad's experience against a large portion of this Australian side, also invaluable, worth its weight in gold and insights into your Pat Cummingses, it's a great decision.
Any one of the top order.
I think and it surprised me, and it positively surprised me, because it's not something I feel. Cricket South Africa is very, very easy to criticize. Yeah. And this seems like quite a forward-thinking way of moving.
It surprised me as well, because I'm with both of you that it's a genius move to play the Ashes hatred that they have for each other to our favor, and sort of ask for advice on the team that plays at that ground at home, just to see if we can get any sort of advantage, because Australia will have definitely played there more than we have. I actually watched South Africa there once, so I think it'll be one hell of an experience for you guys. Nice. Let's run through the squads. I'm going to read you South Africa's squad, and then I think we should try and put together a starting lineup.
I think so too, yeah.
So, Tony de Zorzi, Ryan Rickleton, Aiden Markram, Temba Bavuma as captain, David Bedingham, Tristan Stubbs, Kyle Verreynne, Vian Mulder, Marco Janssen, Corbin Bosch, Kagiso Rabada, Lungin Gidi, Dane Patterson, Keshav Maharaj, Senuran Mutuswamy.
It's so hard to pick.
They're probably going to start.
Let's start with the openers. Who's going to open the batting for South Africa?
Aiden Markram will open.
You think he's going to open and not come at 3?
Yeah, because Shukri Conrad came out and said that he's arguably one of the best test openers in the world at the moment.
Very talented.
He's Mr. Talent, yeah. He's also a young, up-and-coming player. Just give him some time.
Right. Is he going to open with Tony de Zorzi?
I think so. Because that's how they've been playing it in the past.
The problem...
He has opened a lot,
problem is the question around Bedingham.
Yeah.
And Bedingham has been lit the world on fire in recent form. I'd say de Zorzi's the more sort of settled Protea cricketer, but Bedingham's numbers have been so good of recent times.
Doesn't it make sense to then bring him in whilst in third or in fourth spot?
The thing is, opening batting, particularly at a ground like Lords, is a very specialised thing. Yeah. The games at Lords are decided with the new ball, and therefore you need, you really want to keep people in there that are specialist openers. In my opinion.
So you're saying You're saying it's Bedingham and Markram.
I think that's one of the key decisions is, does de Zorzi play?
Yeah.
Or does Bedingham...
Well, what's our strongest opening partnership?
The one thing, my Bedingham is a call on purely on recent form.
Right.
Whereas de Zorzi is someone that kind of has been in the Protea setup for longer.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
I'm very lost. I didn't think Aiden Markram was an opener, but I mean, if Shukri Conrad said he's one of the most talented in the world, then I'm clearly wrong.
I mean, I don't agree with that statement, but I think if he comes out that aggressively,
I always thought Aiden was going to come in at 3 or 4, but
that's where he's usually coming in, right?
I think he's jumped up and down.
Yeah, and I think I think we're remembering him maybe in one day or something like that. Yeah. Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, that we have Tony DeZorzi and Aiden Markram starting.
DeZorzi has also batted at 3 in the past, so there's that option too.
But
let's
Timber?
go.
So now let me read you some of the other batsmen who need to find their place. So we've got Temba, Tristan Stubbs, Ryan Rickleton.
Rickleton has to play.
Rickleton is playing. I mean, he
has to play. He's
the most informed player that we have in our team right now. Yeah. But Rickleton is a bit lower down the order.
He'll come in at 4.
He'll
come in at 4.
So we've got Temba 3. Yeah. Rickleton at 4. Tristan Stubbs is also doing quite well though.
The only way I think Stubbs gets into the side is if he plays keeper and Varane loses out. But Varane has been so good as well as a wicket-keeper batsman over the last couple of years that I think that's the tricky one. And then there's the big question around how do you deal with the all-rounder question?
That's true.
Because Vian Mulder, they've also trialled him as a batting all-rounder, batting him at 3, and it failed miserably. Yeah. Albeit in a winning test. I think it was against Pakistan where he came in at 3, and they performed really well at Newlands. But I struggle to see. I don't think Vian Mulder's the guy.
No.
Who are the all-rounders in the team?
Well, I mean, depends who you would consider an all-rounder. Marco Janssen, theoretically,
he's an all-rounder.
Could count as an all-rounder.
Bosch.
Corbin Bosch. Keshav, probably not really.
Oh, yeah, bowling all-rounder.
Bowling all-rounder.
Maybe let's start with the bowlers.
Okay, let's
try and work our ways up.
How many pacemen do we start? 3?
4 plus a spinner, I would think.
4 plus a spinner.
And then the question is if those 4 include Vian Mulder, or if you go with Corbin and Janssen, because both of them can bat and bowl.
Yeah.
It's a conundrum. And Rabada's in there, of course, no questions asked there. Marco Janssen is in that side, no questions asked.
So then there's a question of, does Lungi Ngidi get into the squad? The starting lineup, sorry.
I think we run out of space for him.
I don't want to dive too deeply into this, but there is a question about quotas, and I don't think Lungi Ngidi gets in. I don't think he gets in as just an out-and-out bowler. I don't think so. But the question is, what are the quotas? I don't know. There's a certain amount of players that have to be of colour, and rightly so. And that is going to be the conundrum. And I think that's going to decide whether Lungi gets in or not, based on does DeZorzi play or not.
Yeah.
I think that's the combination. It's a puzzle piece. And again, a quick criticism of CSA here. It's been a thorn in our side in the past of wanting to just have a merit-based system in the sense that and maybe them fumbling the ball in the past with stupid decisions and stuff that came out right the night before a Cricket World Cup. You just think it's tainted. So that's the question. Where do we go and how does that decision get made? Yeah.
Cricket South Africa has almost missed someone. I mean, I guess you can't even find another Rassie on the other side who took the quota issue in rugby and flipped it completely on its head and made it a non-issue with the way he communicated about it. And with the way he spoke about it in the media, whereas in the cricket world, it's always hushed under the table. Yeah. It's sort of this dark looming ghost that looms behind the squad.
Poorly managed.
That no one ever sort of addresses in public. And no one's found the right way to do it. And it always blows up in their face in the past. Okay, so what we're saying is we can't pick a starting 11. No.
Or we can just go based on merit and then see what happens. Like based on who do we think, which team gives us the best possible opportunity of beating Australia? I think that's the question we need to try and answer.
Okay, so then let's say Aiden Markram and David Bedingham start.
Yeah.
Temba Bavuma still comes in at 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I think Rickleton at 4.
Now we've got Stubbs, Verena, and Mulder.
I think Verena comes in.
Okay.
And that's him at 6, right?
No, in at 5.
Verena comes in at 5.
Then it must be Marco Janssen.
Mark and Janssen 6.
Keshav 7.
And then we still have 4 bowling spots.
Then we've got
maybe Corbin Bosch.
Then we've got Dane Patterson.
Oh, yeah. Dane Patterson's a very interesting thing because remember when Philander came out of nowhere?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, bit of a late bloomer. What's going on here? And his bowling action was just unbelievable. Like his ability to control the seam was unbelievable.
You just hit the same line and length every time.
And Lords is like the mecca for that kind of a bowling style. And like Patterson, what he did to Pakistan and Sri Lanka was so I don't know. That's like a wild card kind of selection there. I think he can do serious damage.
So our 4 pace bowlers that come in on merit: Marco Jansen, Kagiso Rabada, Dane Patterson, and Corbin Bosch.
Yeah, and I picked Corbin Bosch because of his ability to bat down the order.
Okay.
I think and then you have Kesh as the fifth bowler.
So Keshav is coming in, and Muthuswamy doesn't really stand a chance. He's come along as a squad player.
I think he's there to full numbers, unfortunately.
Okay, right. That was difficult.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
We're not going to pick an Australian starting 11 because I don't think we know enough about their team, but I will read their squad anyway. It's Usman Khawaja, Sam Constas, Manish Labuschagne, Steve Smith, Travis Head, Alex Carey, Josh Inglis, Cameron Green, Bo Webster, Pat Cummins as their captain, Mitch Stark, Josh Hazelwood, Scott Boland, Nathan Lyon, Matt Kuhneman, and Brendan Doggett as the travelling reserve. Interesting. We don't have one of those.
The average age of that team is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Pat Cummins has gone completely grey. I need to check. I'm going to just quickly check.
He's not gone grey. I saw him on an episode of Clarkson's Farm. He's not grey. I think you might have seen an AI altered image there.
But when was Clarkson's Farm shot? A while ago.
That would have been last year, obviously. Yeah.
So might be stressed out, bro.
An interesting thing I saw on the Australian team is that a quote has come out by Steve Smith on the opening pair for Australia, which would in the past have been Cameron Green and Usman Khawaja. But apparently, according to Khawaja, Labuschagne has been batting as good as he's ever batted. And the problem that Labuschagne offers to Australia,
I like how you emphasize that every time,
is just the fact that if he plays well and he comes in at 3, that pushes Steve Smith down the order and to come in at 4, which is almost a little bit too late for Steve Smith. You want him coming in higher, and then that means he has to open, and he hasn't been a good opener in the past. So you almost can't find a space in the team for him. If he is indeed now a good opener and he's playing in form, then Usman Khawaja and Labuschagne as an opening pair is a very, very good opening pair. Those two, if they find form, can dig in.
Yeah. Look, as I've said, I think we're going to unfortunately miss the first parts of the first session on Wednesday because we only land 20 minutes before the first ball is bowled. I think the first session on day 1 and 2 is, depending on how the batting goes, but like the new ball is everything at Lords. Yeah. And yeah, that's going to be the telling factor. And if our bowlers can get upper hand, I think it's good. You know, we have a good chance. Yeah. But we've genuinely struggled for runs in the past.
Sure. What do we think the toss is going to matter in this game?
I just checked the weather, and like there doesn't seem to be crazy amounts of rain around all week at all. So touch wood. So I think that makes the toss even harder because if it's sort of overcast,
just depends what the pitch is looking like.
It doesn't even seem like there's too much cloud cover the first couple of days. Okay. Which is hard to believe at London, but usually that's kind of the deciding factor. You say if there's cloud cover, I'm bowling first all day long. I think you bowl first. Yeah, I genuinely think you bowl first.
I also think South Africans batting first has never, in my memory, I don't know why it's ingrained, but us batting first has never really served us well.
We like a chase.
And it's just, when South African opening batsmen come out to begin a test, it seems like you go to the kitchen, make yourself a coffee, you come back with fucking 20 for 3.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's a classic case of put your best foot forward. Yeah. And I think our bowling attack is ahead of our batting. Yeah. And I think that's why put your best foot forward and try and get on top of Australia in the best possible way you can. And I think Jansen and Rabada running in, left-right combination
It's a good one to start
with Janssen's height as well.
Yeah.
And just Rabada's pure pace is, I think, if you ask an Australian like that, what is he most scared of playing South Africa? It's probably that.
Yeah.
That scenario.
Yeah.
Can I ask you for a game changer on either side? Who's going to make the difference for South Africa, and who's going to make the difference for Australia, if you've got one?
I think Corbin Bosch.
You think Corbin Bosch?
I think Corbin Bosch is the kind of guy who can come out and like either put a massive performance in that you didn't expect, or can also completely fumble it.
Okay.
So that's my volatile play on the South African side.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Marco Jansen he can change the game. And I think with bat in hand and ball in hand, I think if we're against, he's come out in the past with the bat in hand, like lower down the order, and it's really sort of,
saved
scored
us
30 to 40 runs and really asserted his dominance. I think he can also help us pull away if we've started well and we're looking to really, we're in the final session of the day and are looking to kind of accelerate. I think and then, everyone talks about him as being probably the sort of heir to the throne of Kagiso Rabada's best test bowler in the world. Throne. Everyone's saying that. They say that's how good he is. So I think he could be the game changer for South Africa. What do you think?
Agree with both of you. I think I'm going to pick Ryan Rickleton. I think if he has a good game with the bat, that can really serve us well, because he is in form and he's playing really well. And I'll just follow that on with the Australians. I think on the Australian side, it'll be Steve Smith for me. If Steve Smith has a good game and bats well, that guy can stay in forever. Yeah,
I agree with that. His technique as well is just he's so difficult to bowl to. And at a ground like Lords, you can really neutralize the most dangerous part of a game for a batsman, and that's when you're facing the new ball. And he's just because of his stance, his unorthodox style, he really has the ability of completely neutralizing bowling attacks, and I think that's the scary part of his play.
We'd have to go for Labuschagne as well after everything you just mentioned about how good he's been touted to be.
He's such a talented cricketer, but he's so hot and cold sometimes. So I think definitely worth mentioning. There's so many on the Australian side that you could also mention, though. And Usman Khawaja can come in. And then their bowlers are also nothing to scoff at either. From Pat Cummins, Mitch Stark, Scott Boland.
Experience there as well.
There's a lot of fast bowlers in there.
I think the one thing that edges at Australia very clearly for me is something that we've just played out here is selection. I think their team is so set. And I think there are a lot of question marks about who we take and who we don't take. And I think that in itself is, the fact that someone like Corbin Bosch, I think, should play and probably won't, is also telling. And how do you kind of make sure that team goes into that? Because also, let's not pretend, these guys are human beings. You're training with people every day. And if you go into a game and there's an inkling in the back of your mind that you think, this is actually not our best side. I think that plays a factor.
For sure.
It's no confidence.
Let me talk to you both about the role of our spinners in both sides. On the South African side, it's Keshav Maharaj. On the Australian side, it's Nathan Lyon. That is a big quality gap, one has to say, because Nathan Lyon is a game changer. Keshav, unfortunately, in Test cricket is...
I get what you say.
Depends who rocks up.
I think Nathan is definitely the far better, particularly wicket-taking spinner, for sure. I think, don't forget, Keshav is the best spinner South Africa's ever had.
For sure. So deserves his respect. And
I think he can really do a job. I think it's fortunate that this game is happening at a ground like Lords, where spin is not going to decide the game. Luckily.
Not in terms of wicket taking.
No, for sure.
But in terms of slowing down a run rate, for example, or getting through a few overs quickly while not losing a lot of runs.
I think I would definitely I'd pick Nathan Lyon all day long. I did see a video on an Australian podcast speaking about whether or not you play a spinner at all.
Oh, really?
And they kind of just said, Nathan Lyon is so experienced and he's so good, you have to play him. And I don't know if you necessarily would say the same about Kesh. I like his experience. I think he's got a good demeanor about him. I think he's also a leader within that side. But I think if you were to say to me, hey, we go with a fifth seamer who is possibly a Corbin Bosch, who is a better batsman than Kesh, you start to think about that. Whereas I don't think you really doubt Nathan Lyon being in that
essentially
side.
Like creating a bomb squad.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about the sledging and what else can win you the game. Test series between South Africa and Australia have been heated in the past. And the last one, I think, was sort of the pinnacle of all of that, led to Sandpaper Gate. But what happened before then between David Warner and Quinton de Kock, and I think there's not a lot of love lost between these two teams. Who do you think has the upper hand in terms of sledging?
I mean, I think the Australians have a higher propensity to sledge. I think people like Costas, he's looking for it. He's very aggressive on it. There are a couple of calmer heads in that side as well, but I think generally Australia sort of, that seems to be how they play cricket.
Yeah.
I think South Africa in this case arguably has probably one of the calmer sides we've had in a while. I mean, Rickleton doesn't. It's also too early in their Test careers to really know, but I feel like other than Rabada,
there's not a lot of hotheads in there.
There's not really a lot of hotheads. I think Marco Janssen will answer with his short balls.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to try and shut someone up. But I think it gets heated. I think there's moments where it boils over, and I think someone like Kagiso is going to take it on head on, and he's actually gotten into trouble in the past over celebrating. Exactly.
And that's where you guys will come in, and the rest of that Lord's crowd. I do hope that there's a few English in there, because the English, I think, will sway towards us. As opposed to supporting the Australians.
Yeah, with the Ashes coming up as well.
With the Ashes coming up. And I know for a fact that the ground is sold out. I think it'll be great atmosphere. I wonder what the split will be in terms of who's got more fans in there, because obviously a lot of expats, both from South Africa and Australia, in London.
I recently heard, though, there's 300,000 South Africans inside the M23.
Really?
Inside the ring in
Jesus.
London. So I think we will outnumber them. Over 5 days, we'll outnumber the Australians.
Yeah. And then you just hope you sort of hope that the neutrals will drift towards South Africa, just because we are also the underdog.
This is one question I wanted to ask you, though, because I'm quite excited for this. You're always at Lords and a lot of English grounds. You see the guys sitting with like the commentary. Do they get given to you, or do you have to buy them?
No, you have to buy them. But you can buy it at it's not expensive.
I'm going to get
like £10.
Listen to a bit of commentary.
Yeah.
Usually costs like
it seems like the whole part of the whole experience.
Yeah.
The experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it does help, because it is long days, sitting in the sun. And as much as we joke that it's just fun drinking in the sun, you're not drinking for 7 hours uninterrupted.
No.
So it's good to just sort of also just settle in and watch the cricket with a little bit of
to pay, you know.
Yeah. I think that's it for our World Test Championship episode. We look forward to some content live from Lords. Anything you guys can give us?
No worries.
Hit it
Hi,
up.
my name's Dominic, and this is my first beer of the day.
Just film the floor as you're celebrating, and that'll be enough for us already.
We'll film what you look like on the flight there and what you look like on the flight back.
Yeah, good lord.
And that's enough. The
go.
rest we can watch on TV.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Tune in for a What a Week episode. And other than that, like and subscribe.
Cheerio.